I'm Mike DiLisio, and welcome to another Board Game Breakfast. I know what many of you are thinking. Who is this guy and where is the hat? Well, rest assured, Tom will be back very soon. He's doing great. It's just that thought it might be fun to change things up a little bit. With us all doing most of our content remote, it might be fun to just change things up and have a different host doing Board Game Breakfast this week, and I am thrilled and privileged to be the first one he asked to do it. I cannot wait. This is a show all about board games and the people that play them. We've got some fantastic contributors with some really fun segments, so without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so for what I found on the internet this week, I was scrolling through BGG, as I often do, for work and for pleasure, and I came across an interesting blog post. It was from Jeff's World of Game Design. That's the name of the blog, and the title of this blog was, "There is no game design Rushmore." And so what Jeff was talking about is this kind of exercise that you see oftentimes online where the X, Y, or Z Mount Rushmore, where kind of the crowning figures of whatever the topic might be. And in this case, he was talking about board games. And so for Jeff, he felt like the first three of the four were easy for him. He felt like you had Sid Sackson, you had Knizia, and you had Kramer. And Jeff was saying that he had a really hard time coming up with the fourth. And he was drawing parallels between the presidents on Mount Rushmore and how the first three were gimmies, but to him he felt like the fourth one, Teddy Roosevelt, was kind of an outlier, and then he went into a little bit of the history about how the artist chose that. And that's getting into political things that I'm not even focusing on here. I just thought this is an interesting exercise, and it's something I had seen before, but the board gaming Mount Rushmore, the designers Mount Rushmore, would be tough to do. For me personally, I know I would have Knizia on there. I know that Saxon is kind of the first line, so to speak, of these modern hobby board games, and many of his designs still feel current to this day, even though they may have been designed in the 60s. And so I certainly have no problem with that. Kramer, it's hard to argue the importance, but would he go on my Mount Rushmore? I don't know. This is tough. I mean, do you put Richard Garfield up there strictly for Magic? And he's had many other influential designs. Although I'm not a Magic player, I understand the significance of Magic to modern gaming. And so it just got me thinking, what would be my personal Mount Rushmore? What would be your personal Mount Rushmore? Let me know in the comments below what you think would be your top 4 game designers of all time. Anyway, there you have it. That's what I found on the internet this week.
Here's what I think about Expedition to New Dale, one of Alexander Pfister's new game, coming up. Hi Stella! If you played All My Goods, you probably recognize Expedition to New Dale. It is in the same universe. It has the mechanics of multi-use of a single card, either for resource or building. As building, you produce and chain your production to get more and better goods. I like both. I like New Dale a lot because it is so tight, but also frustrating at times because it is so tight. To build the chain production, you need to get the right buildings. The common card deck is pretty thick, so I had to keep digging through the deck, trying to find the right combination for my production chain. There are also some upgrades you can do, adding more workers so you can activate more productions. I made a mistake. Didn't get my extra workers. That was really bad. Really need to get that extra worker to produce and do more things early. There are also the map element. You add your structure when you play a building card. There are some bonus tiles you collect to help you in the game, and there are icons you need to collect on the map for end of game bonus. There's a campaign mode, but it feels more like a variant mode. You can add different rules and components to make the game a little different. Overall, it's a great game. There are some parts that I feels a little clunky. The rulebook at times it's not very clear, but I do want to play more, trying to do better than my last horrible defeat at New Dale. Well, thanks for watching. We are on the Dice Tower How to Play videos at Meeple University on YouTube. See you next time.
Okay, so for Mike Reviews other stuff, it seems like I'm seeing two things predominantly online right now. I'm seeing discussions of Animal Crossing, which I'm sure is fantastic. I just don't play it, and I'm very ignorant of all the culture around it, but it seems to be a phenomenon because it seems to cross all age boundaries, and you name it, people are talking about and playing Animal Crossing, but that's not my thing. The other thing that I'm seeing is what I do want to talk a little bit about today, and that is Tiger King, the documentary on Netflix, the, I want to say, 8-part documentary on Netflix. Now, I came into this pretty early in the process, before I started seeing 50 to 60 memes a day about this show. And Tiger King is really, it's fascinating. Now, first of all, I do want to point out that Dice Tower is a family-friendly network, and this is not a family-friendly show by any means. Don't think that because it's about wildlife and tigers that this is something that you could watch around the youngest of children, because it's really not. There's a lot of adult themes in this show, but it really is amazing. The thing about this Tiger King show, and I don't want to give away too much about it, other than it's about kind of individuals and personalities who are involved in the home, private zoos, or keeping large exotic animals in and around your home. And what's so amazing about it is that the main kind of focus, this man named Joe, well, he goes by Joe Exotic. He has many names, but he goes by Joe Exotic. He's such a larger-than-life character. As a matter of fact, what I've said to people when I've talked to them about this show is that if this was a movie, I wouldn't believe it. I'd say, well, this is ridiculous. You can't believe this. This is completely over the top. But it's real. These are real people. And this man, Joe Exotic, was obsessive about filming his day-to-day life, and so there is so much footage out there of both him and the people that he interacts with, all of whom seem to be more outlandish than the next. And I've talked to some people who felt like they didn't particularly like the show because it was like, okay, well, you're kind of pointing and laughing at these people that are, you know, out there, maybe off the beaten path. But that's not the enjoyment I got out of the show. I have an interest in sociology. I used to teach sociology as one of the things I taught in high school. And this, to me, is a fascinating glimpse into a subculture that I had no idea exists, maybe a counterculture, actually, of people that keep exotic animals in and around their homes and even open up their own private zoos. I really had no idea that this type of thing was out there, and it seems to attract, let's say, a very unique type of individual. So if you have an interest in very, very interesting and bizarre subjects and all kinds of, it's not just about that. You won't believe the directions that this show goes. I do recommend Tiger King on Netflix. It's certainly not like anything you've ever seen before.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, we are Ryan and Bethany.
From Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
All right, today we're going to be talking about Architects of the West Kingdom. But before we do that, we like to talk about what we're trying to do to achieve better overall health in our lives.
Right now, I'm focusing on sleep, just trying to get better sleep. And there's two main things I'm doing. I am not being on a screen, and I'm not eating about an hour before I go to bed. Just to kind of help me shut down, and it seems to be working. But it's not like you get a lot of sleep when you're building a kingdom.
Excellent segue, because in Architects of the West Kingdom, you are building a kingdom. You're going to get a lot of your victory points from building these buildings and helping contribute to the cathedral as well. It is a worker placement game that has kind of a clever mechanism where you get to add workers onto a place where there's already workers and you get additional resources. There's also a virtue track on the side. You know, how virtuous you are depends on, determines what kind of actions you can do. If you're super virtuous, you're not going to be going to the black market. And if you're kind of a scumbag, you're not going to be spending your time contributing to the cathedral. So I really like that aspect of the game.
All right, so you know what it's like when you get a brand new book and you open it up and it's so good and you keep reading until you finish it and you're like, what just happened? That's this game. That's how seamless it is. You start playing and you just kind of keep playing until it ends, and I really liked that.
Yeah, there's no cleanup phases. It's just really smooth, really seamless. I thoroughly enjoy Architects of the West Kingdom. I highly recommend this one.
If you want to hear our full thoughts on on this and kind of see Ryan and I go at each other a little bit about this game, go on over to our YouTube channel under Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. Well, this is Ryan and I'm Bethany, hoping you have a happy, healthy breakfast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, it's Ryan from Nights Around a Table, and this is The Secret Life of Board Games, a series where I interview board game creators about the Easter eggs they've hidden in your favorite games. Clank in Space is the spiritual successor to the deck-building board movement hybrid Clank. Designer Paul Denon told me that the hack cards in each of the players' starting decks have a different password written at the bottom, and each password is a reference to a different sci-fi or fantasy film. Now, Paul also said that he doesn't even consider these to be Easter eggs because he put them in there intending that people would be able to figure them out. So, let's take a look at all 6 of the passwords and let's see if you can figure out which film each one is from. The Doomsday Canon password is Chronos, which gets Bob Parr into Syndrome's computer in The Incredibles. The MedLab password is Melon, which helps the Fellowship enter the mines of Moria in The Lord of the Rings. The Arena password is Reindeer Flotilla, which lets Flynn talk to the Master Control Program in Tron. The Engineering password is 11A, 11A2B, 1B2B3, which sets the ship to destruct mode in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. The Promenade password is Joshua, which is the name of the AI researcher's dead son in War Games. And the Hydroponics password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is King Roland's combination to unlock the air shield in Spaceballs. Now, I didn't want Tom to get any copyright strikes on this video, but if you'd like to see an extended version of this episode with clips from the films that I mentioned, head on over to my channel, Nights Around a Table.
Okay, so what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? Actually, a whole lot of stuff. We've got a very full schedule. We've been doing more live content since everyone is a little bit remote here. It's meant that we've done some more live streaming, and we've got a few things scheduled this week. First of all, we have our daily chats every night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and if you haven't had a chance to check those out, I really, really recommend you do so. It's been a lot of fun. It's a great dose of positivity at the end of the day. Rotating hosts, myself and Tom, Z, and Roy have been on, and oftentimes we have some great guests that come on. It's a great atmosphere. The chat is always lively, so I recommend you check those out. We've got this Wednesday crowd surfing live with myself and Tom and Z, where we look over the biggest crowdfunding projects. We also every Thursday have a live board game breakfast, which is our companion show to this one, where we have more segments from our fantastic contributors, so check that out. Tom's got some top 10s. He's got top 10 Marvel and DC games. I'm sure those will be very popular. I'm interested to see what he has to say about that. We've got a special guest for a top 10. Paula Deming is going to be joining Tom and Z for the top 10 most played games. Paula is fantastic. If you've ever checked out her stuff, I'm sure you'll want to see that top 10. We also have Roy's podcast, Spaces Between. His guest this week is one of my favorite people in board gaming, Rainier from Board and Dice Games. Tom also has a bunch of reviews. Some that I'm particularly interested in are Offshore, a game I played and really liked. I'll be interested to hear what he says. Fast Sloths from Freedom and Freeze, and Age of Artisans, the first expansion to Architects of the West Kingdom. There's a whole lot more, but there's some highlights of things from the Dice Tower this week.
Hello, it's Christina from Girls Game Shelf. So are you like me and do you like mean games? Like games where there's lots of take that and feelings get felt and fun is had because we've been through an experience together and learned a lot about each other. If you are, then here are 3 games that you can play online right now, either on Tabletopia, Board Game Arena, or Tabletop Simulator, or all 3 of those. So here are some for you to check out. The first one is Targi. Now, the take that element in Targi is really that each player gets 3 Targis that they are allowed to place on the board. And the placement of them matter because wherever they intersect, that's the good that you're going to be able to get to play on your turn. And you put those down in alternating order. So you'll put yours down, and then the other player has a chance to mess you up and take the good that you wanted. And it's really great. It's lovely. It's kind of low take that-ish in terms of the other games we're about to talk about. The second one is Tortuga 1667. This is a pirate game, and it is super cutthroat, and the more the merrier, player count-wise. Everything you do in this game is just mean. You're pirates. So you're either bumping somebody out of their captain seat or abandoning somebody on an island, and literally every card, there's not anything you can do but be mean to each other. And because of this, even my friends that typically shy away from games that have a lot of player interaction in this way have loved this game, because it's kind of like we're all not nice people together. And the third game is Innovation, which is the first game that ever got me to flip the table. It was actually a blanket, but the game was on top of it. Anyways, Innovation is just, I need to either have a punching bag next to me or a cuddly, something to soothe myself, because you are able to do just the most insane things in this game. Like, you could take the score out of your opponent's score pile. You can whisk achievements away from them simply by taking away cards that they have already melded into their playing space. Meaning they put the cards in play and it's their little engine. But, I mean, you just have so many opportunities to mess the other player up. So no one can ever have a fully formed plan in Innovation. So it keeps you on your toes, and it's so good. It's really good. So those are the games that I suggest that have a bit of take that in them that you could play online these days. If you have any other suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. Check out Girls Game Shelf for more articles and videos, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Hey everyone! Today on 2 Minute Mini we're going to turn the pavilions from Tang Garden from this into this in just 2 minutes. Hey everyone, Matt here from the Plastic Canvas, and welcome to the first episode of 2 Minute Mini. This is a new series that I'm putting together for Board Game Breakfast, and I thought, seeing as this is a new series, I might use the first episode to give you an overview of what each episode is going to look like, so that you know what to expect from future episodes in this series. So I have my own miniature painting channel called The Plastic Canvas, and on there I paint miniatures from board games from start to finish. But rather than trying to do tutorials or guides on how to paint specific minis, I focus my episodes on talking about what I'm learning along the way and how what I've learned in the past has led me to paint in the way that I do today. So with this 2 Minute Mini series, I'm going to take episodes from my channel and condense them down into 2 minutes and talk about 1 or 2 key points that went into painting that mini. And that'll give you an idea of the processes that I went through and perhaps some of the challenges that I faced, so that if what I talk about sounds something useful for you, you'll be able to head over to my channel where you'll be able to find the full video and you'll be able to hear me talk about each of those points more in-depthly, which you'll then hopefully be able to use in your own painting. So hopefully this is going to be a useful series, and if you want to see the full episode of me painting the pavilions from Tang Garden, head over to my channel, The Plastic Canvas, and I hope you enjoy your breakfast.
Last week I was happy to do a top 10 list with Tom and Z, where we talked about the top 10 exceptions to the rule. And the idea behind this list was things that we generally don't like in gaming, whether it's a genre or a mechanic, something along those lines, and a game that's an exception to that rule. So for example, I had said one of my rules was that I don't particularly like train games, and then I used as the exception to that rule Railways of the World, because that's a train game that I like. And as I was constructing this list and thinking about it and actually talking about it with Tom and Z, it got me thinking a little bit about how narrow-minded am I when it comes to games. Do I have a lot of these rules that I live by? And if so, is that a good thing? And I don't know that I came up with a clear answer for that, but I definitely have become a bit more conscious of maybe some biases that I have and maybe some preconceived notions that have potentially kept me away from some games that I might really like. You know, I think it's natural as human beings, and certainly as an extension as a gamer, to try to find the things that you like. We only have a finite amount of time to play games, and so generally speaking, we prefer to play the types of games that we like, rather than maybe take a chance on a game that we're afraid we might not like. And that's fine, and I certainly have gone that route more often than not. But when I was putting together this list, I realized how many times I had some exceptions and things that I was like, you know what, but that really was a good game. And, you know, there might be more out there. I'm sure there are more out there that if I would only open up my mind a little bit and drop my preconceived notions a little bit, I might be exposed to some fantastic games that I'm just kind of intimidated by or afraid to try because I quote unquote don't like those types of games. You know, and train games are a perfect example. There's a whole genre of train games, these 18xx games, and quite honestly I've been very dismissive of them not because I think they're lesser than, quite honestly it's the opposite. It's because I feel like they're above me, that they're too obtuse, they're too complicated, they're too this, they're too that. Well, you know, that's not a very expansive way of thinking. I might end up loving these types of games just because it doesn't have the traditional look that I'm used to, and maybe it doesn't have the aesthetic that I particularly tend to enjoy in games. Doesn't mean the game's not fantastic. There's a whole community of people that absolutely adore these games, so there must be something to them. Now, that doesn't mean generally that I'm going to love these games, but if I never try them, how do I know? Wargaming is a similar thing. I had war games as one of my rules, and the exception to that was Root. Well, that's an outlier. Have I tried a real war game? I think the closest I've probably come would be Commands and Colors Ancients, and I think a lot of real heavy-duty war gamers would say, yeah, that's a war game, but it's not a real war game. Let me introduce you to real war games. And I've had war gamers offer very kindly to kind of cultivate that experience for me. They say, look, I know you like solo games. Let me show you some of these war games that you'd really like. And I've been appreciative of their offer, but I've been really hesitant. I've always found a way out of it. And I don't know that that's a great attitude to have as a gamer. For me, I'm only speaking for myself, but I wonder if any of you have felt anything similar. I'm going to try as best as I can to open up my mind a little bit and try to have less rules and more of an open-minded way of thinking about games.
Happy breakfast, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about something irritating in board games, and that's bad ratings. Now, I don't mean giving a game a bad rating. If something is worthy of a 3 out of 10 review, then it's a bad game. The review isn't necessarily bad. It could be very informative. What I mean is rating a game when you've not played it. Now, this has come to light recently because I was looking at Frosthaven. Yes, the big shiny Kickstarter release that's already got like £5 million in like 48 hours. It's currently rated 6.5 on Board Game Geek. Now, my problem with that is that most likely it's been rated by people that haven't played the game. There's a few people on there that have stated they've played it as a prototype or preview event, and they are fine to rate the game. But it kind of spoils it for everyone else when people go onto there, be it for Kickstarter games, often seems to happen around those. People go on and say, 10 out of 10, cannot wait to play this, looks amazing. Or I really enjoyed, like 10 out of 10, I really enjoyed Gloomhaven. But that doesn't mean you'll enjoy Frosthaven. You get the people at the other end of the spectrum hating on a game or trying to balance the reviews. It goes both ways. Oh, these have rated it 1, I'm rating it a 10 to counterbalance. They're all as bad as each other. I'm sure you all agree, but let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of rating a game before you've played it? Anyway, that's an irritation of mine right now, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.
Hello, we're Board Game Opinions. I'm Amy.
I'm Jonathan. And I'm Mark.
And today we're doing our cafe play segment, and today we're going to be talking about Unlock.
Now, you were saying that people come in actually requesting exit more often, don't they?
Yeah. So that's a key difference here, is
But
that
the problem there.
you can't replay exit.
Yes.
So it cannot be a cafe game unless we're going to charge people,
the price of a copy of exit.
the price of a copy of exit, which they might as well take it home.
Yeah.
Or if they want to buy it in the cafe, they can do, and they can play it. That's fine. But it's often easier to go, well, if you'd like to play a similar style of game, you'd like to do the escape room style game, let's have a look at the Unlock shelf, because that's where you've got those similar mechanics, and then if they'd like to purchase exit, they can. But exit's right next to the counter, our like display of it, and I think they clock onto it and they go, oh, is this an escape room? And you go, yeah. And they get instantly hooked.
Especially the exit box do remind you more of an escape room than the Unlock ones, which are kind of, in the UK, they're split into three. So we get three of them in bulk, actually, not individually.
The one.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things as well, is, like you say, and when people have spotted it out and about and then they come in and ask if they can play at the cafe, it's not playable as a cafe game.
Yeah.
But the style of game does lend itself well, especially considering that it scales well with a lot of players. We get a lot of couples coming in, we get a lot of dates.
Yeah.
And that 2-player shelf is limited, whereas the Unlock games are brilliant because they work so well as a couple. They're really good for team building, they're good for getting to know each other, they're good for having a bit of a laugh if you get really stuck on something. It's hilarious.
The help system in the Unlock ones is generally quite good as well, which I think is important if you get stuck in an escape room game.
The only issue with it is that it doesn't give you the final answer, whereas the exits do eventually. So sometimes I have to scoot over and give them a bit of an extra nudge. But that's what we're there for. Anyway, that was Cafe Play. We spoke about Unlock. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
And that's another board game breakfast. Man, it's been a lot of fun guest hosting this week. Thanks so much for allowing me to do that. It's been a real joy. Thank you to all of the contributors who always do such a great job. Keep an eye out on Thursday for our live board game breakfast. That's always a lot of fun. I meant to mention during the Dice Tower production segment that Tom and Rado have been doing a twice-weekly show live, so keep an eye out for that. One of the shows are on our YouTube channel, the other show is on Rado's YouTube channel, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, keep playing board games. We have such a fantastic hobby to kind of help us through times like this where we maybe are a little bit out of our comfort zone. So let's all cling to that great hobby that we have of board gaming. This has been another Board Game Breakfast on the Dice Tower.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.